It was a courtroom filled with tension that morning. The kind of unease that only existed in places where judgments could change lives. The walls of the courthouse were an imposing shade of gray, the air thick with anticipation. Lawyers whispered nervously to one another, the echo of heels against polished floors ringing through the space. The usual hum of activity was noticeably absent, replaced by a silent anxiety that no one could put into words. Among the crowd waiting for the trial to begin was a woman whose presence, though unassuming at first, would soon turn the entire courtroom upside down. Sergeant Major Linda Harris, a retired veteran of the U.S. Army, stood silently in line, her eyes scanning the room. Her posture was impeccable, a reflection of her military discipline, though the soft weight of a troubling past weighed heavily on her shoulders. She had served her country honorably, fought in wars, and endured more than many could comprehend. But today, she wasn't just a veteran. Today, she was a black woman facing the kind of prejudice she thought she had left behind in her uniform. As she made her way toward her seat, a young bailiff, who had been glancing over his paperwork, turned his attention toward her. He hesitated for a moment before deciding to approach her. His expression was unreadable, but his actions were deliberate. He instructed her to sit in a specific chair and prepared for what was about to unfold, something that he would never forget for as long as he lived. "Excuse me, ma'am," the bailiff began, his voice carrying a tone that Linda immediately recognized, a tone that she had heard too many times throughout her life, the condescending undertone of authority. "I need to check your hair for any concealed items. Please remove your headscarf." Linda, taken aback by the audacity of the request, instinctively straightened her back. She had heard the whispers and seen the subtle glances as she entered the room, but this blatant act of disrespect felt different. "I beg your pardon?" she replied, her voice calm but firm, the weight of years of experience shaping each word. "You heard me," the bailiff repeated, his tone colder now, a flash of impatience crossing his face. "It's a routine check. Nothing personal. Routine." It was always just routine when it came to her. She knew what he was implying, what they were all thinking. Her blackness, her femininity, her military background, none of it mattered to the people who held power in spaces like this. Linda had experienced this kind of racial profiling before, but it had always been with strangers. This was different. This was in a courtroom, the very institution meant to ensure justice. Linda didn't budge. "I don't have anything to hide," she said, her voice steady now, commanding the respect of anyone who cared to listen. "But I will not comply with a request that violates my dignity." The bailiff's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, there was a palpable silence. He looked at her hair, then back at the judge, whose eyes were now focused on the exchange. For a brief moment, he hesitated, perhaps reconsidering the implications of pushing further. But his ego, it seemed, got the best of him. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but this is a direct order," the bailiff said as he moved closer, attempting to lift her scarf. Linda's heart raced, not out of fear, but out of a deep-seated frustration that had been growing within her for years. She had been through battles in far-off lands, had faced life-and-death situations, and had stood strong through unimaginable odds. Yet here she was in the very place where justice was supposed to be served, being humiliated by a man who had no idea what it meant to serve. With a swift motion, she pushed his hand away. "You will not touch me," she said, her voice unwavering. The bailiff was taken aback, stunned by the sheer force of her refusal. He was used to dealing with people who cowered, who submitted, but Linda was not one of them. She had fought for her country, and she would fight for herself. The courtroom was now watching, some in silence, others with furrowed brows, unsure of what would happen next. And then, as if the universe had chosen this moment to deliver a powerful twist, the door to the courtroom opened, and in walked the judge, an older woman, her robes flowing behind her like a symbol of authority. Judge Eleanor Brooks took one look at the scene before her and immediately took control. Her eyes locked with Linda's, and for a moment, an understanding passed between them. This wasn't just a case about rules and procedures. This was about power, respect, and the deep scars of a society that still grappled with its own prejudice. The bailiff froze, his face flushed with embarrassment. He had just made the mistake of underestimating Linda Harris. "I'll take it from here," Judge Brooks said firmly, her gaze unwavering. She turned to Linda and gave a slight nod, a gesture that spoke volumes. "Sergeant Major Harris, I apologize for this behavior. Please take your seat." As Linda sat down, a rush of emotions flooded her. Anger, frustration, but also a sense of justice, a rare feeling in places like these. The courtroom, once tense with discomfort, now held a new kind of energy, one that reflected the quiet resilience of those who had long been silenced. It was only then that Linda understood what was truly at stake. It wasn't just about the case at hand, or even about the racist bailiff who had tried to break her spirit. It was about something much larger, fighting for the respect that was long overdue. When the judge returned to her seat and the proceedings resumed, Linda could feel the eyes of everyone in the room on her. She had faced her adversary, and in doing so had set the stage for something greater. She wasn't just a witness or a defendant anymore. She had become a symbol of defiance. And as the trial continued, she knew that the courtroom would never be the same again.